All right, we're continuing our journey, and this is the intro to the intro. You know what that means? It means it's another bonus episode. I'm going to 3 in a row of these bonus episodes, only for the supporters, which should be you. Today's your day. Sign up, go early access, ad-free, and hundreds of bonus episodes just like this, because you're going to want to hear the rest of this. I guarantee it. You probably already heard part 1 as a teaser, and you're like, let me check out part 2 as a teaser, because it's only going to get juicier as we go. So there's the 3 supporter platform options. The highly recommended, most popular is patreon.com/IlluminatiWatcher. Then the easiest is Apple Premium. If you're on the Apple app, you just mash the button and you're in. And then the cheapest one, if you do an annual plan, is on IlluminatiWatcher.com, the VIP section. And all of those, you're going to get early access, ad-free, bonus content, all that stuff. So you already know the drill. Links are in the show notes. Here's the preview. See you on the other side. Today we continue our Conspiracy Classics book club deep dive into James Shelby Downard's King Kill 33. We're going to talk about chapters 4 through 6. We'll talk about Kennedy, Beale and Bouvier, the Scarlet Woman Miss Chudleigh. We'll talk about Marilyn Monroe's Shriner husband, Bob Slatzer, as we unpack divine and sacred names that connect JFK into Moloch or Baal, Jackie Onassis Bouvier bloodline, and the Radzvil royals. Mystical Toponomy with the 32nd degree of latitude connecting through Tres Hermanas, Macbeth, the Great Whore, the Lone Pentagram State, looking at the symbolism of the color red, the history of Houston, Shakespeare's Macbeth, Texas's Masonic control system, Kabbalah principles, psycho-seggsual rituals, and the alchemical detonation of primordial matter. Here on Occult, Symbolism, and Pop Culture. Now we're continuing our journey. This is the bonus episodes for the supporter feed. So if you're not on the supporter feed, I don't know what you're doing. Get on there. Get on the winning team. All right. Now, presumably you've already listened to part 1, so we don't need to go through there. But you're going to notice that we take an iterative view through this book, because he brings up things at the beginning of the book, then he elaborates on them a little bit further later, and you're going to get some more of that today. All right. And then in part 3, the final part, we're gonna wrap up the book, of course, and then I'm gonna zoom all the way back out, and I'm gonna explain to you everything that we talked about, because it might get confusing at times. You know, he's a genius, and sometimes these geniuses are strange characters. So let's get into set 4, chapter 4, Kennedy, Beale and Bouvier. And we're talking about Miss Chudleigh again. Back to Miss Chudleigh. He says that she found protection from the Pope's edicts with Prince Radzvil. Now, what in the world is he talking about? He's talking about, remember the mystical taint? Remember he talked about that in part 1? We talked about basically it being a curse on the bloodline. And his implication here is that her participation in these sex ritual perversions cursed her bloodline. All right. Now, I don't have all the answers here. I have a lot of questions, like who the hell was Miss Chudleigh? Who's she related to? How do you know about these rituals? I mean, these are questions I'm not going to get the answers for. Then, and again, in the PDF I have, the pages are all chopped up. Then he starts talking about Marilyn Monroe, which obviously ties into JFK, because JFK and his brother were supposedly stooping Marilyn. He claims she was married to a Shriner Mason named Bob Slatzer. All right, which you can look that up online. This is a guy who claimed he was married, and the mainstream sort of view is that he was making it all up. And because I looked all this up, he doesn't explain all this in the book. Some of this is my research. She was apparently married 3 times: James Doherty, Joe DiMaggio, and Arthur Miller. And none of them were Shriners or Freemasons. But Downard says that Bob Slatzer was indeed married to her, and he is the Shriner Mason. And he had written a book called The Life and Curious Death of Marilyn Monroe, and he claimed that he married her briefly in Mexico in 1952. But then it was later dissolved by Daryl Zanuck, the head of 20th Century Fox Studios, because, back then the actors and actresses were owned by the studios, and they were like, that's a bad look. And this was between marriages, right? This is 1952, which is between James Dougherty and Joe DiMaggio. Now, I can't confirm that he's a Shriner, but it is interesting if he was, because I started doing a deep dive into Gravity Falls. Oh my gosh, I still got like 15 more episodes to watch. But I got a lot. I found an Epstein connection. There's that. But as you know, one of the main characters there is a Shriner. And in fact, all Shriners are Freemasons. But not all Freemasons are Shriners. Okay. Shriners are the ancient Arabic order of the nobles of the mystic shrine. And those letters, AAONMS, are actually an anagram for a Mason, if you rearrange them. And they incorporate a lot of the, you always see them in the little cars at the parades, with the little red hats, the fez. They incorporate a lot of the Arabic or Middle Eastern architecture and symbolism in their group, because they are connected to the secret societies through the Assassins and the Knights Templar. That's where a lot of this stuff comes through. So interesting that Downard would bring that up when there's all these, various conspiracies tied into that. But like I said, a lot of this stuff, he just kind of mentions it, and then later he'll go back to it sometimes. It's hard to follow. But he was onto something, because this was a long time ago, and clearly the DNA of Downard is on all of the conspiracy theories that we've been talking about. Then he talks about the science of names, again with the science of names, and because God had created the world through the spoken word. There's a lot of power in words and names, and in magic. That's why they have magical names, because they don't want their ops to know their real name, because then it provides a vehicle for them to put spells and curses on them. So he starts unpacking the name Beale, Beale, because Jackie Onassis' aunt is named Edith Bouvier Beale. She was destitute. Then JFK was born in Brookline, Massachusetts on Beale Street. And then if you unpack the word Beale, it connects you through to El, Bel, Baal, Beal, Beale, and Beiel. El meaning God and like Elohim. Baal meaning Moloch, right? The deity of child sacrifice. El is the name of God and is a root of divine names. They call this a sacred name in Freemasonry. Beiel is a location also, and is found 1 mile from Lindisfarne, which means holy house. And that connects Lindisfarne into the association with the Harrodom, which also connects into King Arthur, the Round Table, Merlin, Camelot, and the Scottish Black Watch, which will come back to all of that in part 3. Ugh. So he plays, it's kind of like when you hear conspiracy theorists that get into gematria, they just kind of get into this rap. He's kind of doing that, kind of just connecting a bunch of points together. So he continues looking at the history of the Bouvier bloodline and references Look magazine that traces the... Now, wait a minute. I got to look on my notes here. I can't tell if these are my notes or from his book. Oh, it's such a mess. Regardless, either him or I came up with the idea that Look magazine traced Bouvier's bloodline back to France in 1410. And Eustache Bouvier, who was Jackie Onassis' great-great-grandfather, fought in a French regiment under George Washington. So there's some royalty in that bloodline, in the old Bouvier bloodline. And then there's this view of JFK's bloodline having a curse. He went to Paris to meet with Charles de Gaulle, and at the same time, Marcel Bouvier was painting a bridge called the Spirit Bridge, a.k.a. the Bridge of Souls, a.k.a. the Log of Lerma. And when Marcel and Danielle Bouvier were driving up to Paris to meet JFK, because, like I said, he was in Paris, they got into an accident and Danielle died. Now, tragically, she had a gift for Jackie, Onassis, that's her first cousin, who they were going to see. And it said, "For my dear cousin." And it had a nightingale broken in its gilded cage. Now, where have we heard these things before? Twin Peaks and Eyes Wide Shut. Right? Twin Peaks, they were talking about logs. The log lady, Log of Lerma. The nightingale that sings at night. Cousins. She looks like me, but she is my cousin. And in Eyes Wide Shut, we had Nick Nightingale, a name that Kubrick changed from the book Dream Novella. It was Nick Nottingale, and Kubrick changed it to Nick Nightingale, a bird that sings at night. He's performing at night for these sex magic ritual parties, which is kind of like what they were doing at the Dashwood Caves that we talked about in part 1. I'm going to read you from... Is this from King Kill 33? It must be, yes. News reports failed to mention the type of tree involved in the crash, which took away Danielle and ruined her nightingale. Whether or not it was a thorn tree of the rowan type, legend has it that a nightingale sings with its breast pressed against a thorn. Another story with a nightingale theme is the tale of Tereus, king of Thrace, who wanted to make love to Philomela, the sister of his wife Procne. Philomela was eventually forced to submit to Tereus, who removed her tongue so that she could not relate what happened. By weaving a cloak in what she described the horrors to which she had been subjected, and by having it delivered to Procne, great tragedy and hysteria ensued. Procne seized her son Eetus by Tereus, and after cooking him, served the meat to her husband. Tereus discovered the deception and murder and pursued the women, one of whom was transformed into a swallow and the other into a nightingale. Tereus was changed into a hoopoe. The god Zeus effected the transformation. The myth is allegedly an explanation for the melancholia of the Song of the Nightingale. So there's a little bit of cannibalism into that mythology as well, which ties into a lot of, other conspiracies. Not a big relevant part of King Kill 33, so we're not going to focus too hard on that. But what Downard is trying to do is connect the world of mythology and the pagans into this reason for why there was a ritual to assassinate JFK. It's kind of the most complex conspiracy theory ever. So if you go by the what's the axiom about the simplest explanation is the right one. Like, this ain't it. This ain't it, Chief. Okay, so Jackie Onassis actually once went to Delos Island, which is the birthplace of Apollo and Diana. Recall earlier Downard talked about the three goddesses, and one of them was Diana. Delos, a.k.a. Island of the Dead, is where she toured a bunch of Greek pagan sites. Now, wasn't Westworld, which was very Illuminati confirmed, wasn't that also in the park was called Delos, was it not? Delos, Westworld, what could it all mean? Oh, Delos is the character, and he's the guy who started, the founder. Yeah, okay, yeah, the company's called Delos, founded by James Delos. Yeah, it's an incorporation. The subsidy that creates and runs the various parks, like Westworld. So that's done on purpose, right? Island of the Dead, which would explain a lot for Westworld, right? It's basically a Western realm of robots. Bunch of dead people. So Jackie Onassis and her sister, Princess Lee Radzvil, because she married into the royal bloodline of the Radzvils, traveled to India. They went to Taj Mahal, which Downard asserts as a shrine of magic and mysticism, fertility, and death. And it represents beliefs of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, the Bhagavad Gita is fascinating because that connects us into Eyes Wide Shut and Twin Peaks, because the book Bhagavad Gita is in Twin Peaks because Ben Horne is reading it. And in Eyes Wide Shut, apparently there was a verse from the Bhagavad Gita that was read during the orgy sex scene, but India was tripping hard on this. And then Warner Brothers removed it because Kubrick was gone. Because I think Kubrick would have told him, F off. It's my movie. Don't watch it if you don't like it. And this verse, allegedly, was, for the protection of the virtuous, for the destruction of evil, and for the firm establishment of Dharma, I take birth and am incarnated on earth from age to age. So there's your life and death, exactly what Downard's talking about. And the meaning of that verse, from what I read online, is that Krishna will protect those who uphold Dharma, the will, and restore balance to maintain cosmic order. And the incarnation talk is all about the cyclical nature of the divine interventions from Krishna, because he is reborn constantly in order to maintain the cosmic order. And if you heard my Eyes Wide Shut series, there's this whole focus on sex and death and the regenerative forces. They're balancing these opposing forces, and this whole thing just kind of fits nicely into the theories of those two pop culture, titans, Kubrick and Lynch. Now we move to set 5, the Mystical Toponomy section. And he says, Mystical Toponomy pertains to the magic and mysteries of words and the Masonic science of symbolism. And he says, no one has thus far documented any political or modern Kabbalist or sorceress uses of mystical toponymy. He's talking that trash. Old Downard. He's like, I belong on that Mount Crushmore. Ain't nobody talking about this. Y'all just a bunch of copying ass hoes. Get me up there. I'm the king. And I respect that. I like that's some nefarious trash talking. I love it. That's great. The inner wrestling heel in me stand up slow clap for that one. I got to talk to Michael Hoffman. I got to know what Downard was like. Put that on my list of things to do. Okay. He uses an example of mystical toponymy as this 32nd degree line of latitude. Again, this is something that's in common parlance in today's modern conspiracy theory world of content creators. My man was doing it before anyone, as far as I know. I mean, maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like he's the original. Because I'm going to explain to you why I think this book was written in 78. Either in today's episode or part 3. I don't remember. But 78, that's a long time ago. So he says this 32nd degree line of latitude corresponds to the 32nd degree of Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, which, as you know, is the uppermost that you can get to through initiation. 33 is the highest level, but you have to be invited into that. You can't just work your way through it, right? Memorizing these rituals and going through all these tests. You got to be invited in. But the 32nd degree line of latitude traces through New Mexico to the Tres Hermanas, a.k.a. the Three Sisters Mountains. And then through a ghost town called Shakespeare. All right? You see how these things are starting to connect now. And Shakespeare and the Three Sisters is from the Shakespeare story Macbeth. And if you continue that 32nd degree line west, it goes into Ruby, like Jack Ruby, who we're going to talk about, and into Twin Mountain Peaks, called Kennedy and Johnson. What? My man's dropping Hammer of the Gods on that ass. All right, that's the end of the free feed preview. And if you want to unlock the bonus episodes, there's 3 of them that I'm doing for this particular deep dive in the conspiracy classics type show that I'm doing. We're going to continue in part 2 talking about the mystical toponymy of the 32nd and 33rd degree line of latitude that runs through a bunch of symbolic areas of the Three Sisters Mountains, the Tres Hermanas, and we talk about the Jornada del Muerto with the Shakespeare Macbeth, the Great Whore, and all that stuff. And then we talk about the symbolism that you can find with Texas. We're talking about the color red, the pentagrams on the flag, the history of Houston with the Freemasonic technocracy, and then the Texas Masonic control system with Kabbalah and the psycho-seggsual rituals. And then we start getting into the real crux of the matter, the alchemical detonation of primordial matter. So if you want to hear the rest of part 1, 2, and 3, it's a 3-episode super mega deep dive into James Shelby Downard. You know where to go. You know what to do. Go to allmylinks.com/IsaacW, 2 A's, double awesome. That's right, allmylinks.com/IsaacW. And you can see the jump-off links for the supporter feeds, including the link to IlluminatiWatcher.com with the VIP section where I break down the differences between the 3 platforms. My goodness. But the one that's easily the most popular is patreon.com/IlluminatiWatcher. And any one of those, you'll get access to the full bonus episodes, hundreds of them going way back. Early access, ad-free experience. My goodness, it's got to be worth it for those pesky ads to go away. And you'll be supporting your favorite show, okay? So I hope you are enjoying your day. And go check out the supporter feeds, okay? Until next time, stay positive. I'm your host, Isaac Weishaupt, and while we're taking a little break from the show, I want to take you down Grifter Alley. The amount of censorship that I've battled over the years is unbelievable. I started blogging and writing books in 2011, and I started podcasting and creating video content in 2014. My channels constantly get shut down. I've had Amazon reject books that I've written, and the saga just keeps going. Instead of folding up the whole project, I've had to rebuild and rebrand multiple times for reasons I have yet to understand. You can check out the full story at IlluminatiWatcher.com. Hit the Start Here tab on the menu. So that leads me to you. I need you to support the show because the power controllers apparently have a problem with us. The best way to do that is by becoming a member on one of my supporter feeds where you'll get ad-free versions of the show, early access, and hundreds of monthly bonus episodes that the free feed losers will never get to hear. The platform I recommend is patreon.com/IlluminatiWatcher. Because you'll get all those goods, and I will send you my 2 most popular books for free, The Dark Path and Kubrick's Code, all for less than a cup of coffee a month.
Cup of coffee in the big time.
Another reason I like Patreon is the community comment sections, because there are over 1,000 members, and sometimes the comment sections get real lively. App compatibility with Spotify and Apple and much more. It makes it a no-brainer. I can also provide an option to watch videos ad-free at a tier 2, annual discounts, and a whole lot more. Check it all out at patreon.com/IlluminatiWatcher. Now, the easiest platform is Apple Podcast Premium. If you listen to the show on Apple Podcast, just mash the button, you're in. You unlock all the bonus episodes, the early access, the ad-free experience, all that. The cheaper alternative to Patreon is one that I created. You get the same perks that you get at Patreon, the free books and all that. It's the VIP section. You can check that out at IlluminatiWatcher.com. Click the VIP menu tab up top. You can read the details. You'll have to copy and paste an RSS code into a compatible app of your choice, right? The VIP section, it doesn't work with every single app, but there's a list of the popular ones that it works with, like Apple Podcasts, CastBox, Overcast, Pocket Cast, and much more. Again, check out illuminatiwatcher.com, hit the VIP menu tab, and you can compare all 3 of these supporter options. Because lots of people think I should be doing this for free, which is very admirable, but it takes an incredible amount of time, recording, hosting content, and getting software, equipment. I got to read whole books sometimes, taking notes on everything that I consume. It's literally a full-time job for me to juggle with a day job, a home life, and a family.
Hey, man, I got 5 kids to feed.
And I'm a one-man army, which is great because I actually don't answer to anybody but you. All right? That means you can trust that I'm giving you my take and not some political hack job angle or corporate slave master shilling or any other kind of nefarious purposes. But that requires you to support the show. If you're in the position to, if this is the last $5 of the month that you have, I don't want it. I want you to prioritize your health, your family, your relationships. That needs to be priority number 1. But if you got it, you want to give me a cup of coffee, let's go.